Hello, thanks for clicking. Welcome to another Knowledge Math production. Today we're going to be talking about slope or rate of change, which you've done many times before, the slope of a line. Okay, so hopefully you remember already. If you see the picture here that's on the front cover or the front page of the presentation, positive slope, your line's going up the hill. Negative slope, your line's going down the hill. If a line is horizontal, the slope is 0. I'd really like to ski on this slope. Okay, because there's 0 slope. If the line is vertical, the slope is undefined. Okay, if you fall down this hill, you would probably be undefined when you reach the bottom of it. All right, so that's an easy way to remember all 4 of those slopes. So let's get started. We'll remember how to do this. So slope of a line is determined by 2 things, the rise and the run. Okay, slope is rise over run, or delta y over delta x. The Greek letter delta means change. So how much does the y change by versus how much does the x change by? That's another way to do it. Okay. So to determine the rise and run, or delta y over delta x, you need to pick 2 points that are on the corner of a square, right, that are on whole numbered points. And then you just need to count the boxes. So from this point, okay, I usually do rise first. This one's doing run. I usually do rise first because y is first anyway in the numerator. So to me, I would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my change in y is plus 6. And then my change in x is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. So my slope would be 6 over 5 for this line. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you go left and right first or up and down first. I prefer to go up and down first because the rise or the change in y is in the numerator, and that's the first number there anyway. All right, so slope is like the most boring video game you can ever get. You start on one point, you try to get to the other point. All you can do is move up and down and then left and right. All right, so let's find the slope between these 2 points. So to find slope, it's the rise over the run, or delta y over delta x, change in y over change in x. All right, so I'm going to start from this point. It doesn't matter which point you start from. I'm going to start from the 0, 1. And from here, the points are already labeled. I'm going to go try to get to this point. So I'm going up 1, 2, 3 spaces. So I went up 3. That's a positive 3. And then from here, I'm going 1, 2 to the left. So that's negative 2. I went 2 to the left, so it's negative. So my slope is 3 over negative 2, which is negative 3 halves, right? I can put that negative in the front. There's only one negative. So my slope is negative 3 halves. That makes sense. My line's going down the hill. The slope should be negative. Okay, and this next one, I'm going to have to put my points on here. So I'm looking for points that end up on whole numbers. There's 1, and there's another one that's on a whole number. So these are the 2 points I'll pick. To find the slope, it's rise over run, or delta y over delta x, change in y over change in x. So I'm going to start on this point down here. Like I said, it doesn't make a difference. So from here, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. 5 up, that's a positive 5. And from there, I'm going 1, 2 to the right. So that's a positive 2. I'm going 2 to the right. Positive 5 over positive 2 is a slope of 5 over 2, 5 halves. And then finally, I'm looking for 2 more. So here's a point on a corner. Here's a point on the corner as well. So I'll start on this point again. So my slope is delta y over delta x. So my change in y is 1, 2 up. And then 1, 2, 3 to the right. So positive over positive, that's 2 over 3. My slope is 2/3. So there's my answer for that one. Okay? All right, so you've done this many times before. And then we have the slope formula. The slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You can also use delta y over delta x. How much does y change divided by how much x changes? Okay, either way, both of those are valid. All right, so let's see how those work real quick. Make sure you have that formula down. You're going to need it. So let's find the slope of the line that contains the 2 points 10, -1, and -8, 6. Now you could graph both of these points on a coordinate plane or a piece of graph paper and then do rise over run or delta y over delta x and count the boxes to figure out what the slope is. But obviously, if the numbers start to get too big, then nobody wants to sit there and put all these points on a graph paper and then count. So if we take these points and then remember we labeled them x1, y1, x2, y2. So my slope would be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's going to be 6 minus -1. Okay, minus is part of the formula, and the y1 is -1. x2 is -8 minus x1 is 10. All right, these two negatives in a row are going to make a positive. Whoa, that's 6 plus 1. Good save. And then down on the bottom here, we have -8 and a -10. The signs are the same, so I add their numbers, which is 18, and take the sign of the number, which is negative. And then we have 7 up top. So 7 over -18 is -7/18. So there's my slope. Okay? That's probably the easiest way to go about doing it. All right? Okay, find the slope of the table below. Now, there's a couple ways that you can do this. I'll show you 2 different ways that you can do it. One of the ways to do it is to use your formula that you have, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And you just have to pick 2 of the coordinate points to use. Doesn't matter which 2 you pick. There's 3 of them here. You can't mix and match though. So I'm going to pick -1, 0, and I'm going to pick 1, 2. So here's my x1, here's my y1, here's my x2, here's my y2. y2 is 2, y1 is 0. x2 is 1 minus x1 is -1. 2 minus 0 is 2. 2 negatives in a row make a positive. So 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 over 2 is 1. There's my slope. So the answer is B, 1. That's the slope. The other way you could do this is you could also do, it's pretty easy here to do delta y over delta x. How much does the y change, the y column change versus the x column? So for example, if I go from -2 to 0, how am I getting from -2 to 0? I'm adding 2, all right? And I'm adding 2 there. And the x column, from -3 to go up to -1, I have to add 2. From -1 to get to 1, I have to add 2. So the change in y is positive 2. The change in x is also positive 2. 2 over 2 is 1. That works too. That might be a little easier for the charts rather than having to plug in all the numbers, okay? Because the chart, if it's linear, the chart will be consistent. The y's will be consistent in the same number you're adding or subtracting, and the x's will be consistent in the same number you're adding or subtracting. But the y answer, the y number you add, doesn't have to be the same number as the x number you add. All right, they can be different. Okay, so now, your turn. Let's go find the slope. All right, so this is a multiple choice question. So now, let's use our multiple choice skills that we know. Take a look. This slope, it's a positive slope, right? The line's going up the hill. So that's not the answer, and that's not the answer. We're down to 2 answers, and we haven't done anything yet. Okay? So now I'm going to start on this point. My slope is rise over run, or delta y over delta x. So my change in y is 1. I went 2 up. And my change in x is 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. So I went 2 over 4. 2 over 4, that's a fraction. It's not in lowest terms. I could divide them both by 2. I'd get 1 over 2. My answer is B, 1/2. And then finally, just tell whether the slope of the line, what is this slope? The line's going down the hill. So this slope is negative. And there's my answer. And that's slope. You've done it many times before, hopefully. As always, thanks for clicking.